Hello, hello, hello. I'm on my own at the moment. I'm just waiting for Darja to join. I'm hoping she'll be able to be with us in a moment. But until that time, where hopefully she'll be able to come on, I want to quickly talk to you about some of this kind of moral injury stuff that we mentioned yesterday. I know some of you said that you wanted to understand a little bit more about that. So let's hopefully get that sorted for you, just whilst I wait for Darja to join. So there is probably a much more, what shall I say, educational perhaps definition or academic definition of what I'm about to share with you, just very, very quickly. But hopefully if I can give you some examples, this will help. So if we think about moral injury, and how it contributes to burnout. The three sectors definitely where I can see that we are seeing more of this particular type of burnout are in HR, education, and healthcare. If we think about, we'll go back to 2020, that awful year for many of us. If we think about healthcare as an example, where people were maybe waiting for equipment, they were waiting for PPE, they were seeing all of these different things. The individuals within the organisation would likely have been able to see the solutions that needed to be carried out. And when we can see how things should be done a different way, that can cause us to question more of the immoral and unethical behaviours that are happening around us. And when we question some of those behaviours, that causes us this moral injury that can lead to burnout. If we think about it from an education perspective, when we see or when we are told that teachers need to be operating where it's all about testing, where we just need to tick boxes, and when teachers just want to educate and teach, we end up with this kind of disconnect, we end up with this moral dilemma, and therefore we end up with moral injury. When we look at it from an HR perspective, again, we see the disconnect. We may see decisions that are being made by some leaders, by some of the leadership team, maybe some of the behaviours from managers. And actually, from an HR perspective, we see it as if we just followed this particular route, this would be the solution that we ended up with, and therefore everything would be okay. That disconnect causes us to question the morals and ethics of what's happening, and therefore can cause some of this moral injury. My own experience, as I mentioned yesterday morning, I think a lot of my experience around my first burnout was linked to this definition of moral injury. And I say that because of the situation that I found myself in at the time. So lots of things, if you like, kind of became kind of nails in the coffin. One of which was around a coach that I had been assigned by the CEO, who I didn't feel that I could trust, who lots of people didn't feel that we could trust, who was entwined in the organisation, actually, having coached the CEO for a long time, but entwined within the organisation, speaking to lots of different managers and leaders, causing a lot of unrest, passing a lot of my work off as her own, and then speaking to the CEO about the fact that because we had all of these issues, she then needed to be the one to bring in more of her team to try to fix them. And I'm like, what's going on here? Another example was one of the Big Four consultancies. The organisation was working with them at the time, and they were being paid, part of their contract was that we were paying them for financial savings that they were able to identify across the organisation. Members of my team had delivered a project that was saving millions of pounds within the first year of implementation. The consultancy had nothing to do with that. This project was already ongoing before they came into the organisation, but they took the savings from that project to then say, this is how much we need to be paid for the savings that have come out of that project. From my perspective, that should not have happened because they didn't touch it. They had nothing to do with it. And I was being told by the FD and the CEO, basically, put up and shut up. This is what's in the agreement. So again, from a moral and ethical perspective, why should one of the top 4 consultancies that are in to take savings be able to, we give them more money as an organization for something that they had nothing to do with? There were lots and lots of those examples going on. But when we talk about moral injury, that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. It's where we see as individuals immoral or unethical behaviors that are happening, where we want to challenge them, where we want to change them, where we are saying, like, hands in the air, kind of, what's going on here? This is completely unacceptable. This is not right. This is not what we should be doing. And when we see all of those things happening, it's those things that can lead us to burnout. Whereas if we look at the normal, if you like, definition of burnout, that says that it is a workplace phenomenon caused by workplace stress, of course, these moral dilemmas can cause us an amount of stress, but it wasn't due to the workload. It wasn't due to the actual work that I was doing. It was due to this disconnect between the immoral and unethical behaviors that I could see happening, me questioning, because things like justice and fairness are really important values to me, actually. And I couldn't relate how anything that was happening at that time was actually ethical or moral. And so that, the stress, if you like, that was being caused from that is what led me to burnout. It wasn't the fact that I wasn't coping within my role. It wasn't the fact that I couldn't deal with the workload, but it was the surrounding stuff that was going on, all of that led me to more stress, more like, I just want things to be fair. And none of this stuff seems fair. I don't understand how we as an organization can be allowing this immoral kind of behavior and things to be happening. I don't understand why nobody else sees this as an issue. So it was that disconnect that was leading to those sorts of things. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to kind of talk to you about that one at the moment, just whilst I'm waiting. I am going to leave that there for now. I'm going to quickly head backstage. I'm going to see if I can get hold of Darja. I know she has accepted this event a couple of times, so just want to jump and see if she's got any technical issues. Hopefully, I'll be back with you in a couple of minutes, but I'm going to leave you there for now. And I'm just going to head back behind the scenes, off the stage, and see what I can sort out. Hopefully, I'll be back with you in a minute. See Okay, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. We have Darja with us. I think we've had a technical issue, which we get from time to time when we have these things going on. But I am going to now introduce to the stage Darja Hvala. Hope I pronounced that properly. I have been practicing my pronunciation. I've probably still got it wrong. But Darja Hvala, she's going to be talking to us. Again, she's an ex-HR professional. This doesn't mean that we're only talking to HR pros. Laura and Barry from yesterday. We've got lots of other guests. But as with Michelle and I both being in the HR space, we tend to attract lots of fabulous HR professionals. Darja is going to come and talk to us about her own experience, about how she, I suppose, went through a journey of self-discovery. And I think that's probably a theme that many of us are going to go through today. Darja, I know, has attended some of my events. She's now doing lots of talking, lots of speaking, lots of events to help to try and banish burnout. She's talking a lot about her own experience. And I think just being of great benefit, she's providing her own stories to her own community now. So I'm going to bring to the stage Darja and say, hello, how are you?
Hi, Kelly. Hi. Well,
Thank
yes,
you so much
it
for
were
joining.
technical issues, but we are here now. So
We're
thanks
here
for
now.
waiting
I'm
for
very,
me.
very grateful. Thank you. We're still here.
Yeah.
We're still here.
Yeah, great.
So before we dive into the kind of topic of conversation for today, just give us a bit of an introduction about you. Like,
Right.
Who are you? What do you do?
So my name is Darja Hvala, and I'm from Slovenia. And I've burned out in 2016 for the first time. At that point, I was HR manager for human resource development. And at that point, I did not know almost anything about burnout. Not at work, not anywhere else was much talked about burnout. So the only source of information about burnout for me was my Gestalt trainers, because at that time I was in Gestalt psychotherapy training, and my trainers were from the Netherlands, and they knew about burnout, especially because they were actually psychiatrists and psychotherapists for burnout people, and they knew what was going on. So actually they helped me to open up my eyes, and actually not just open up my eyes, but they actually said to me, if you don't go and seek help, we would not allow you to come here for the training and continue the training, because the training was 4 years ongoing. So they actually stated an ultimatum to me. And I remember that time that it wasn't from one day to another for me to accept and go to my doctors. It was for quite a while still like, how can I manage it? How can I survive? So this breaking point, I mean, I knew for at least 6 months I'm not okay. And I kept noticing I'm not okay. I can't sleep. I'm really sleep deprived. Anyway, so I knew it was getting serious and serious, but still I could not stop. So that the main issue for me was really to accept that I can't do this anymore, that I have to stop and I have to seek help. And when I did that, only then it got really, really catastrophic. In a way that when I knew, or when I went to the doctors, and when my doctor, and I was really lucky to have a doctor that actually knew what was going on with me, when he said to me, look, we'll see how it goes, but it's probably going to last longer than a month. Because when I went to the doctors, I thought, this is like for 2-3 weeks and I'll be back on my feet.
Yeah.
But when I actually realized that, okay, it's going to take longer, I wasn't even aware how long, but I had in my mind this information, like, you are safe for 1 month, okay? And only then the real, earthquake happened, because then I really it was devastating. I could not, nothing. It was just nothingness. It was like laying in my bed, almost barely functioning. And when I say functioning, means sleeping. And my daily project was to go to the bathroom and watch myself. And that was it for 6 weeks, 2 months. I can't even remember. It took me a long, long time to, also from the psychological point of view, to accept that, I'm not Darja anymore. Who am I? What's going on? And I did not consider this as like I'm sick. I was just like, what's this? It was really like a tsunami. It was, well, yeah, it was really devastating. Yeah.
Because it can feel like a loss of self, can't it? I know with everybody that I've been kind of speaking to, it feels like a loss of self. I think I made Kate that we've just spoken to kind of said that it was like this numbness, like not knowing who she was. When we spoke to Laura and Barry yesterday, we mentioned it. I definitely kind of felt the same. And again, I think you've been part of some of the kind of workshops and stuff that I've done. But I think I talk very much about the gap between our true self and who we're kind of displaying as or pretending to be or masking ourselves as. It's almost like the bigger that gap becomes, the bigger the gap we have for burnout to fill. And there is some of that discovery. So we'll come on to that. I'd love to hear more about that from your perspective. There's a couple of things that I want to kind of ask Darja, if you don't mind. Firstly,
please do.
I love Gestalt techniques. I did some of those as part of my own coaching. I've done some kind of different courses elsewhere. But for some of our kind of watchers and listeners that may not understand that, just talk to us about like what is Gestalt training? What is it? How can it benefit us?
Okay, so the Gestalt training I took, it was 4 years long, and it was to become a Gestalt experiential family psychotherapist. So the main point in Gestalt approach is actually to be aware of who, whatever you bring here and now, but also to check with your body. Your body is the one that is actually your main, how shall I say it? It shows what's going on before, or even if your head doesn't want to accept that. Which, with burnout, that's the main problem, because we disconnect from our body. We are just in our heads.
Yeah.
And I was really rushing my life from my head, and I was disconnected from my body at all. And I was really doing really hard not to notice my body, and really, really ignoring it and sabotaging it, self-sabotaging it. So with Gestalt approach is actually exactly that, coming back to your body and accepting that your body is telling you a lot.
Yeah, because we do ignore a lot of those signs when we get to that point of burnout, right? All of the signs and symptoms are there, but as you said, we disconnect. Somehow we disconnect from our body. We've got excuses for all of those things, and we're in our heads trying to almost, would you say, kind of, I know it's not, when we come out of it, we know it's not logical and rational, but it's almost like at the point that we're in it, we're trying to logically rationalize everything in our head that is experience that we're going through, at the same time as you said, disconnecting from our bodies completely. So our brain is trying to say, well, this is happening because of this. But actually, if we tuned into our bodies more, we'd be like, no, that's not the thing at all.
Well, a few things about that. First is this disconnection, because the drive, the need to, keep yourself afloat, keep yourself going, is so strong that it's not about knowing whether or not you're not okay. It's about not having the capacity to do something about it, because that part, I'm talking through myself now, you know, from my own experience. Like I was disappearing. Like, who am I if I'm not capable of working, if I don't show up, if I'm not a mom, if you know, who am I, and especially who am I if I'm not successful? So the tragedy in my head to sit down and you know, like, look, no, to the little acceptance of what's going on with me, like it was just impossible. And I remember one thing, my Gestalt trainer, when you know, when we had trainings and we were kind of checking in, and I said, you know, like, oh, I was just having some kind of virus infection, and after 3 days I'm back at work, I'm fine. And she said, and you are really saying this proudly? And I said, yes. I mean, it was not about pride. It was about the only expectation of me, that getting back on your feet is like your duty. But what she was trying to tell me is like, how about you getting really well and then continue your life? And for me, that was a concept that was just foreign.
Do you think it helps? In again, and this is something that I definitely see a lot, but it's almost like somebody giving you permission to say it's okay for you to, in effect, you know, kind of heal and recover first. Whereas actually a lot of everything that we do, like you mentioned the word success there, a lot of the time, like in order to be successful, like nobody's really talking to us about the need to rest, the need to look after ourselves, are they? Like when we think about success, we are told it's about hustle and working hard,
go.
Be dead and keep going and doing all of this stuff. And actually, when somebody says to you, like, you'll need to recover, you'll need to heal, you'll need to get better, you know, needs to happen in order for you to be successful. Can you kind of remember how that resonated with you at the time?
Back then, that was not on my radar at all. It was like, you know, you have 8 or how many hours of sleep, and that's it. But I have to also say that, you know, for me, it really wasn't just physical exhaustion. It was way beyond that. And plus it was, you know, piling up from years, not just months. So it was like, who am I if I can't do my job, if I can't show up for my people, if I can't, you know, be a parent? You know, why would I? The rest is simply it was not on my radar to actually set times aside for resting. You know, especially when I was employed, I had certain days of you know, for holidays, and that was it. I had to juggle with that. You know, around that, my kids were at school, so I had to juggle around that. So taking time off, or at least, or even going to my boss and say, look, I need more time off. That would be, for me at that time, saying, look, I'm not capable. Probably I'm not the right person for the job. I mean, it would be really like,
that's a really big thing, because we assume, again, saying this is what we're experiencing is a sign of weakness, or us not being capable, or us not being good enough, or not being skilled enough, or all of those sorts of things. Now, in the work that you do with clients, and probably as part of your own self-discovery as well, how do you now kind of help people with it? Like, if somebody says, I can't speak to my boss because they'll think I'm not good enough, what's your advice to them now?
Well, first of all, I would actually questioning not why can't you say to your boss, but what's stopping you to allow it to yourself. So what's the connection or disconnection to you being worthy of taking time off for yourself, you being worthy of being okay, you being loved by yourself and by others, even when you can't, perform the way you either promise or you want or whatever. So it's way more connected to self-worth than anything else. But for us who are prone to burnout, seek validation from the outside world, because our validation doesn't stand like firmly, and that's the point of all our decision making.
Yeah.
And it's really not about decision, but it's really about the how we how we see ourselves. What's the like, who am I if I need to slow down? Who am I if I'm not so keen anymore? Who am I if I lost my purpose? Who am I if this doesn't work for me anymore? Yeah, like, is this relationship with myself the one that drives my decisions, or not?
Yeah. That's still the who am I question is still my absolute favorite. Again, for anybody that's been following me for a while, it's all over my socials. It can be such a powerful question, and I'm sure in a moment or two when we come onto your kind of self-discovery, it's played a big part of that for you too. So I'm interested to kind of get onto that. Before we get onto that though, I just want to come backwards again to something that you said earlier. So you're doing this Gestalt training, and they say to you, basically, you've got to go and do the work on yourself before you can continue with this. I could also remember, like, all of the qualifications that I've done, right? Whether that's been my coaching, whether it's been some of the stuff in neuroscience, my psychotherapy, all of those things that I've done. I remember turning up for some of my coaching, my exec coaching qualification, and not really realizing just how much coaching I had to have in order to learn how to be a coach, right? And I remember getting really frustrated at one point, like, I'm just here to learn how to coach. I don't need any more coaching. And getting really kind of annoyed with it, because I was still at that time coming through my burnout. Even though I thought I dealt with it, I was still coming through that at the time. For somebody to say to you, you've got to, like, you've got to go and fix this, else you can you can no longer be part of this program. Can you remember what that kind of did to you at that time?
I do remember. It was probably a shock, but also a sense of failure, because I was desperate for continuing the training.
Yeah.
Because that was something that was really nurturing, feeding my, let's say, soul. I really enjoyed this training. This was something where I really wanted to show up, because that was really like, I feel at home here. I can be who I am. I can show my vulnerability. I'm not here to perform, or at least not in my eyes.
Yeah.
At workplace. So it wasn't, even at home in my family. I mean, they were noticing I'm not okay. They were trying to come on, Darja, you need to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
This is not, they were trying to help me, but I didn't want to accept that. So the tipping point for me was really that a colleague of mine at work came to my office. We had a meeting for something to do with development conversations. But he said to me, Darja, what's going on with you? You're not smiling anymore. You're numb. Your face is numb. What's going on?
Yeah.
I don't recognize you. And we started conversation with, what was going on with me. And I told him, I said, look, I'm not sleeping for a long time. I'm really not just exhausted, but I'm constantly worried that somebody's gonna find out that I'm not capable of delivering anymore.
Yeah.
And I was in fear constantly about that. And then he said, look, we are a company, we are a big company. We will manage without you. Go home, sort yourself out, take the time off, because your kids need you too.
Mm-hmm.
You need you, and we would like to have you back as well. And of course, I started to cry. Of course, it was like, oh, it was really touching, but also I kind of accepted that conversation as a permission.
Mm.
You see me, you see that I'm not imagining that I can't do this. So you see me, and you care about me as that much, that
Yeah.
you actually, say to me, please go seek help, because this is not okay. So from the corporate environment, I had to have this conversation with somebody who saw me and who want to support me. So it wasn't enough from home. It wasn't enough from the Gestalt training. It had to come on top of it from my working environment as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Thank you. And what then do you think? Do you think it was those conversations that triggered you to then kind of go on this, I suppose, this kind of route of self-discovery, self-development to get you through that burnout?
Well, I have to say that there was quite a lot of shame attached to my burnout, because my expectation towards myself, it was like, if I am able to help other people, and if I'm training to be a psychotherapist, how come I'm burnout? So that was an additional burden of expectation towards myself. So, the meeting me in all the pain and total disability was something that I had to break, and I had to, kind of see what's behind, what's beneath of me, and why, despite all my, all my all my way of life, trying to be the best of who I am, just didn't work. So yeah, I had to kind of rediscover and come into terms that I'm still me, even when something like that. When I'm sure you know that. I mean, I'm not going to tell you anything new, but when you face yourself in this kind of situation of total powerlessness, well, something new has to emerge. Some new part of you has to emerge, but it's a lot of deep diving and a lot of connecting to the part of you that you didn't want to accept, or I didn't want to accept, I should say.
Yeah.
And building from there up. And, I'm not happy that I burned out. Far from it, because I have consequences, and I always will, probably even more than less. But what it taught me, what a roller coaster of emotions, of, oh Jesus, of changes that I had to take in my life. Well, I say it's worth it.
Okay.
Well, it is for me, because it was, I did not want to see what was present for me. I was kind of blind, and I wanted to keep being blind, but it would cost me just, or another illness, or somewhere that I probably would not have a point of return.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. So before we come on to some of those changes quickly, I want to just, shame is something that I hear a lot, and again, I think for that reason, that when we are in I want to say kind of roles that help, right? So maybe we have done some coaching qualifications, maybe we've done some psychotherapy, we've done some I don't know, coaching therapies. It could be maybe in the HR space, it could be in the healthcare sector, maybe as teachers. Again, you know, we're seeing a lot of burnout increasing in things like the healthcare sector, the education sector, the HR sector. So if I came to you now and said, like, I'm feeling this shame, because actually I can help everybody else, but I can't help myself. And then I beat myself up even more. And I find myself literally sinking deeper and deeper and deeper into this shame. What would you be saying to me as a client? What would you be saying to me as somebody that you were having a conversation with?
First of all, I think it's important to acknowledge that coaches need coaches, psychotherapists need psychotherapy, the same as dentists need other dentists.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is something, probably the first thing that I would say. It's coming for help comes from the need to survive, the need to thrive. So I would not go directly into what's not working, but, you know, like, where are you showing up for yourself?
Yeah.
Because only then, you know, that we get a bit of support and a bit of connection to ourselves, you know, the parts that we are the most proud of, then we can look into the parts that are not there yet, right? And I think the validation that we need, it's our need, you know, it's so healing.
Yeah.
And at the point when we need help and when we seek help, probably the self-validation doesn't work anymore. But we have to hear it from somebody else. So then we can reconnect with ourselves, and then, you know, even then we are ready to learn, or we are ready to explore, even, you know, to connect again with our deeper core,
Yeah.
you know, system and values that actually make us who we are.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. So let's talk then about some of the things that you discovered. So on this kind of route of self-discovery, this we say the word journey a lot, don't we? But it really is a journey back from or
It is.
through
It
burnout.
is.
So as part of that kind of journey through burnout, what do you think you learned most about yourself? What were the kind of most, either, I don't know, most useful, most impactful parts of that self-discovery for you?
I would say, and this is ongoing, still ongoing, for me, is the hardest, but also the most rewarding, is to accept where I stand today, now. So, you know, this not comparing me with me a few years ago or even a few hours ago, let alone with somebody else, that I jump into like instantaneously. So I have to catch myself. And the other one is it takes training to build a different relationship with ourselves. And that can come, and it's useful that it comes from small, little, but constant, continuous steps, which is like, for me, it was like when I was on a sick leave. For me, after a while, because I was, after a few months, I was, you know, like really discovering what kind of sleeping patterns I have. When I fall asleep naturally, what's the time of the day that I'm the most productive?
Yeah.
Or how long I can do something, but then the focus is off. Like, how I actually organize myself. So it's not like from 9 to 5, but I took those kind of demands from the society, let's say, for granted, without questioning me whether or not that suits me.
Yeah.
So, but we live the way we live, and it's really necessary, to kind of rearrange our lives towards us closer to our needs.
Yeah.
And our
there's a
also
certain level of,
capabilities.
yeah, totally. And there's a certain level of courage, I think, that comes with that, isn't there? Because we are challenging the norms, right? We're challenging what we've been told. The fact that we're told you work between 9 to 5, you sleep between 10 and 7, you eat at these times, you exercise here, you do this. This is what success looks like. Work hard, play hard. You do all of this stuff. But again, what I'm hearing you saying there, even like to say, I've had to pay attention as to when I needed to sleep. I was paying attention to when I was working. I mean, some of that is stuff that potentially a lot of people wouldn't even consider, right? Because we're just told from the time we start school, really, aren't we? Right? This is the time you show up, this is the time you go home. And yet you found yourself, right? How much sleep do I need? What time am I falling asleep? What time am I working? What time am I most productive? So even before maybe you get to some of the questions around values or purpose or strengths or any of those sorts of things, you're saying, what do I need right here, right now? What does that look like, and what's working for me? So what do you think allowed you or gave you the permission to really step back and say, what do I need now?
The need of getting myself back on my feet. If I kept ignoring my bodily needs, no way. I mean, with my head, I could not force my body to move.
Yeah.
No. Okay. I mean, even when for clients, let's say, I mean, before they are gaining back some energy, I would not even start working with them, because you can't start from the point of of the place of the deprivation.
Yeah.
I mean, physically you don't, your hormones are not working, your adrenal glands, they are not providing you with energy, so let alone forget it.
Yeah.
So you were mentioning beforehand, like breaks, did you take breaks? What's your opinion about taking time off? Well, how it's the this is how non-negotiable. Like, what do I need, and how can I rearrange my commitments if I'm not okay?
Yeah.
Because sometimes, even though I plan time out, my body wanted to time out a few days beforehand.
Yeah.
So now I listen to my body.
And
now I it's my compass.
Yeah.
Not my head.
Yeah.
And even though sometimes they are in, like who's going to win, but no. I've learned the hard way.
Yeah.
I've learned the hard way that,
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I'm so grateful. Apologies again for any technical issues, for keeping you waiting, for anything that may have been going on behind the scenes. Apologies to those of you that were waiting. I hope this conversation has been useful. Darja, just before we close, if you were to give, let's say, one bit of advice to anybody that is either nearing or coming through burnout, what would you say to them?
I would give two advices. First one is, take the signs of burnout seriously. And although I know it's very, very, very hard, but I would advise that loudly as possible. Stop as soon as you can, because the recovery is then going to be shorter. The damage is going to be lesser. So stop as soon as possible and take this really seriously. Although this, it's not something that you can see and you can touch. It's not like you have a broken arm and you know that you have to go and, to the ER and put the plaster on. But really, take yourself seriously. That's the first one. And the other one is never worry alone. Why am I saying that? Because if I remember myself when I was worrying, to being really sick, I mean, I had the possibilities of how to help myself, just the ones that were looping in my surrounding. And that's not enough, because if I didn't find the solutions in my zone, talk to somebody. Don't be alone with that. Talk to somebody as soon as possible. Find a person that you assume it's going to be supportive. Find that person and don't be alone with that. Don't be alone with because it's a lonely place anyway. Don't get it harder and longer and prolong it into a really adrenal breakdown.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you. Everybody, if you have enjoyed this conversation, as I've been saying to everybody, please do like, share, comment. We want to get as much of this conversation out as possible. Do give Darja a follow on LinkedIn. Again, lots of great stuff out there about burnout. And I think it's Bye Bye Burnout.
Burnout, Bye Bye.
Burnout, Bye Bye. So Darja has got some amazing resources, content, all of that sort of stuff. Go and give her a follow. Darja, if there is anything that you would like to share with listeners, we'll make sure that those links are included when we post this video. But I'm going to say to everybody, thank you. Thank you for what I know. We had a little bit of a delay at the beginning, some technical issues, as can be expected when we're doing these sorts of events. But thank you very much for sticking around. Thank you for waiting. Thank you for getting involved. The replay will be available on the website within the next kind of hour. Again, just keep sharing. We're really, really grateful for your comments and conversations. Darja, thank you very much for getting involved. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you to everybody. I will see you. I'm not back with you actually this afternoon. Michelle, I may be a little bit later. You may see me once more today, but my co-host Michelle Hartley is going to be taking the reins for the next couple of hours. So she will be live with you from 4 o'clock. I'm going to say thank you very much. Darja, once again, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate your
openness and
honesty. Thank you to everybody. Keep sharing. The hashtag is #TheBigBurnoutConversation, and we will keep flooding your social media streams as much as we possibly can this week to raise as much awareness on this really, really important topic. And I'm sure by now, with the conversations that we've had, you're all starting to see some themes that are coming through, some threads that each of our guests are sharing that kind of tie all of this stuff together. So as Darja says, do not go through this alone. Do not ignore the signs. Give Darja a follow, and we will be back with you again soon. Thanks very much, everybody. Take care for now. Bye.
Thank you.